And now this is the commentary.
Mark 16 discussion.
Yep, there is no gap.
No gap.
We didn't have a discussion in between the reading and the
no,
discussion, like a pre-discussion discussion. This is just the discussion. So
Mark
first,
puts it a lot
hold
more
on.
Like,
This is like newsflash.
right.
There are 2, 3, 4 versions of just this one chapter. There's a version that goes verse 1 through 8. There's a version that has a little bit tagged on to 8, and then a version that goes 1 through 20, and then verse 14 you just read has another version.
An extra little counter.
Yeah.
Exchange.
So
exchange.
So we're seeing here how they were already struggling in the first century to try to get everybody on the same page. And here we are, we're 2,000 years later, still struggling with this. Still,
right. Yeah.
So that's actually hopeful, at least for me, because
well, it's confirming to what you and I believe about this.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, there's not a lot of consensus, right? Even within the same book, there's not even there's shorter and more expanded versions.
Right. Yeah. So there's that, and the thing that I want to note. So the Book of Mark is considered the first gospel that Matthew and Luke borrowed from, and then John was written later. That's kind of the time frame that's accepted from Bible translation scholars pretty widely. There's always outliers to that. So I have not studied that myself, so just a grain of salt. But that's what at the beginning of your study Bible says. Verses 1 through 8, I looked this up, written in the original manuscript, the oldest that we have, that we're looking at, late 60s AD. These other editions are actually into the 2nd century. So they're after 100 AD. So these are editions that are 30 or 40 years later.
By Mark or by someone
Couldn't
else?
have been by Mark.
Couldn't
Mark would have been dead by then.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been by later first and second century Christians that were trying to round out the story, is what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because Mark, look where he leaves it off. That's what I actually really love about this.
The women fled, scared, and said nothing because they were afraid.
Bam. Now it's, what are you going to do with this? It's a challenge that you have to be. He's calling for boldness. This is his timing is in a very tumultuous uprising time in Jerusalem, or in the region. So Rome is having trouble with uprisings in Jerusalem, and he's trying to spur. Actually, what he's trying to do, he's trying to spur Roman Gentiles to have some urgency, maybe. That, what are you going to do with this? Are you?
Yeah.
I don't know. So, but he doesn't focus. What I notice is he doesn't focus like Matthew 28 did on kind of the royal language. The I have power and control of everything. He's left it really wide open. He didn't focus on that at all. And then even when we read the longer endings, you see that the tone has changed. Now it's the Great Commission. That's where we get this, starting in verse 15, giving people a clear path of what they're supposed to do with this. So this is answering verse 8. Verse 8's 1 through 8's kind of cliffhanger.
But this paints it in such a different way. Like Matthew is so full of hope and like certainty and like, I'm gonna be with you and don't worry and all these things. And Mark paints it, at least this extended version of Mark, first of all, the shorter version of Mark paints it in like, well, they were terrified and they didn't say anything, period. Then if you go into the extended version, he paints it more like an exchange, more like almost like a bit of an argument. Like if I'm reading that right, that little addendum, and the disciples are kind of excusing themselves. 14,
right?
Yeah, 14. They're excusing themselves. They're like, this age of lawlessness is under beliefs, is under Satan. Like,
slow down there, because I actually, read that real quick.
The exchange was, they excused themselves, the disciples, saying, this age of lawlessness and unbelief is under Satan. who doesn't permit God's truth and power to conquer evil spirits. So reveal your justice now. Like, tell us what we're supposed to do with this, is what they're saying, is what how I'm reading that. That's what they said to Christ. And Christ replied to them, the period of Satan's power has been fulfilled, but other bad stuff, other dreadful things will happen soon. And I was handed over to death so that those who have sinned may return to the truth and sin no more. And then they can inherit the spiritual, incorruptible, righteous glory in heaven. Like, I had to die for this. You know?
Yeah.
They're going, oh, it's all Satan's just in power. And he's like, no, you are literally still freaking missing the point. Up to the very, very end is what the way I'm reading this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what that sounds like.
Yeah.
Oh no, there's a lot more tension in this chapter overall.
It feels tense. The feeling is tense versus hopeful in Matthew. So it's interesting to know now, like, that Mark was written first. So Mark's like, I was there. I was close. I wrote it first. Then Matthew and Luke took from some of that. Plus, they were also there, right? But then here comes John at the end, the one Jesus loved, who it feels like John was
Matthew was. Luke was a later.
It feels like John comes in at the end and goes, let me just clear this up and tell you what really happened, though. Because I was the closest. That's the vibe, right? Like,
it feels
Mark's
like that,
kind
right?
of the most truest to the feeling of the way things probably were. And then, you know, I don't know. It's interesting to see the different perspectives going on. But, yeah. I wrote a lot of other notes about some other words on this previously, but those aren't really sticking out now as much as this is. So, yeah. Mark 16, what do you think? It's interesting, too, at the end to me, that Mark says, when the Lord Jesus had finished, he was taken up into heaven and sat down at the place of... How does he know? How does he know that he was taken up into heaven and sat down at the place of honor at God's right hand? How does he know?
Exactly.
And the disciples went everywhere and preached, and the Lord worked through them, confirming what they said by many miraculous signs, which is great. Sounds like they went ahead and took the heed of going to the world, but how did Mark know that Jesus went up and sat down there? Maybe unless Jesus said, I'm going to do this now. See ya.
Yeah, and this is revelation through prayer and this is literary design.
Right.
You know, this is what we get into, right? When we start looking at every action that we read in the Bible as a
Literal.
perfect literal action that happened.
It's not.
Yeah. Is it or isn't it? Is some of it might be poetic license that the church widely believes is inspired by God, that it's like you didn't have to have the direct knowledge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the simplistic like God puppeteer like theory.
I have had, you've seen it in my journal 2 or 3 times. I've been in prayer and writing in my journal where those words were not things I would have written. That handwriting didn't look like mine. Like, and it was things that were like really revelatory. I'm not saying it was a prophecy, but personally, very possible.
When you go to church fathers and how they would talk about this today, that's not quite the way that they would talk about it. That it's like they go into a trance and it was somebody else's hand.
Mm-hmm.
But so no, that's something to explore, something to talk about. So.
Mark 16 anything else?
No, that's really no.
Oh, this is interesting. It's funny that you said back in Matthew that it felt like royal language, because I have written down here the verse 15, and then he told them, go into the world and preach the good news to everyone. The word good there in the Greek is Evangelion, which is a good message or announcement of military victories, restoration of goodness, or a royal announcement.
There you go.
Evangelion.
So it would have had
We'll share the Evangelion news.
It would have had the connotation of a herald.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The king.
Yes. King Edward IV has conquered so and so and such.
Yes. I keep thinking of
Why
Cinderella.
I went British.
When they redid the Cinderella, do you remember the live action Cinderella with Whitney Houston?
Wait, what?
Live action Cinderella they did with Whitney Houston. It was so good.
That whole sentence, I've never heard of that.
Oh, so good. Disney did it. And what's his name? Jason. What's his name from Friends? Played the Herald. Oh, he was so good. Yeah, the bald guy from not Friends, Seinfeld. The guy from Seinfeld
Oh,
played the herald that went
Bell
out to... I forget his name. Sorry,
Yes.
Jason something. No offense.
I know who you're talking about. I don't remember
Mark
his last name.
16. Oh my gosh.